It is possible that you already know about UFO, which is an acronym for the English phrase Unidentified Flying Object. However, have you ever heard of a USO? Similar to a UFO, a USO is also used to denote an unidentified object, but one that appears underwater instead of in the sky. This could be in any body of water, from the deep ocean to large rivers and lakes. Our Earth has 70% of its surface covered by water. Therefore, this acts as a perfect shield, obscuring humanity from the true mysteries hidden beneath. In the year 2022, the United States Department of Defense announced that the office investigating UFOs would be expanded and further developed to include the function of researching these unidentified submerged objects. A great deal of historical evidence has shown us that bodies of water are excellent hiding places for extraterrestrial visitors. We have encountered them, pursued them, and have even been revealed the existence of their bases deep within the ocean. Could the USO phenomenon be real? Is it possible that in our search for aliens, we have unintentionally overlooked the deep, mysterious waters? Let us clarify this matter together over the next 30 minutes. Welcome to the podcast, USO Aliens Beneath the Deep Blue Sea. First, we sincerely hope you will give this video a like so that this content can spread more widely. Do not forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you do not miss out on the most fascinating content. Now, let us get straight to the main topic. Unidentified flying objects have always been associated with the sky since their appearance. Following the Roswell incident in 1947, people naturally assumed that UFOs were the vehicles used by aliens every time they visited Earth. They also gradually began to assume that these visitors always arrived from the sky. However, few people realize that since the Second World War, many mysterious stories have been circulating about ghost submarines frequently appearing all over the world. People called them ghost submarines because, at that time, no one could explain where the objects came from, what they were doing, and why they were so fast. You would see one appear on the radar screen, but only a few seconds later, it would vanish without a trace. Many armies around the world thought they were enemy forces and desperately tried to attack and chase them. But the result was always zero. The strange object was not damaged even slightly. Possessing a speed faster than any warship ever built by humans and completely unharmed by any kind of weaponry, it seemed not to belong to this world. These very ghost submarines laid the groundwork for a new concept of unidentified objects under the water. USO was born. Over time, the term USO gradually ceased to exclusively refer to ghost submarines, but also to strange objects near coastlines or creatures of unknown origin. Even if something suspected of being a UFO crashes and sinks to the bottom of the sea, it will become a USO. Enthusiasts of extraterrestrial life believe that USOs, just like UFOs, are both products brought to Earth by aliens. Some people even assert that aliens are using the oceans or large freshwater lakes to conceal their true active bases. Like all other theories, people were skeptical about USOs for decades. That is, until July 2009, when the Russia Today published a shocking report. The report stated that the Russian Navy had declassified a number of files related to USOs from the former Soviet Union era. These included records from witnesses, military personnel, and many scientists regarding the sighting, contact, or participation in missions involving strange underwater objects. This time, USOs were officially taken seriously by everyone. These files were declassified after being personally collected by the Deputy Commander-in-Chief of the Navy, Admiral Nikolai Smirnov, who led a special investigation team. So, what did they reveal? Are the pieces of information trustworthy? Could the phenomenon that many people have suspected for so long be true? Most of the information in the declassified files describes incredible encounters with USOs from various cases, especially involving seasoned military personnel from the old Soviet Navy. Retired Navy Major General Yuri Beketov, a submarine commander, shared that during his deployment in the Bermuda Triangle, USOs appeared very frequently. We had no way of knowing about their appearance. We could only rely on guesswork. Every time the equipment simultaneously malfunctioned for no apparent reason, or was severely jammed, everyone knew it was approaching. Beketov and his comrades once encountered USOs traveling at speeds up to 230 knots, which is equivalent to more than 400 kilometers per hour. Considered the fastest submarine in the world, the Papa-class submarine developed by the former Soviet Union could only reach a speed of 82 kilometers per hour. A speed of 400 kilometers per hour underwater is completely beyond the current level of human engineering. The story does not end there. After USOs were taken more seriously, people began to pay attention to similar events in the past. And then, an astonishing event described in the book Secrets of Unidentified Submerged Objects in Russia captured everyone's attention. The event is called the Lake Baikal Frogmen, and here are 15 seconds for a commercial break. Experience a brand new men's hairstyle, washing away work fatigue at 30 size, announcing a 10-step cut and wash service at the same price all week, only 120,000 Vietnamese dong. Premium service, cutting-edge technology. Announcing the 10-step cut and wash for only 120,000 Vietnamese dong. And this is Lake Baikal that we have mentioned. Known as the world's deepest freshwater lake, it has an average depth of 758 meters, with the deepest point reaching over 1,700 meters. The mysterious story of the Lake Baikal Frogmen began in the summer of 1982. It was right here that Soviet military soldiers were conducting underwater combat training. Everything was proceeding normally until they encountered a strange creature. This creature was nearly 3 meters tall, looked human-like, but was much more agile. Despite the very low water temperature, they operated as if they were completely unaffected. Some soldiers described them as wearing silver wetsuits and sealed helmets, but they did not carry any oxygen tanks. They could not explain these creatures, so they temporarily called them the Frogmen. After much deliberation, the soldiers decided to plan to capture one individual for research. A 7-person squad was quickly formed, carrying nets and diving to a depth of 50 meters. As predicted, the Frogmen did appear. However, before they could catch up and capture one, something created a massive force of water that attacked the entire squad. In an instant, it pushed everyone back to the water surface. Perhaps you do not know this, but at a depth of 50 meters, the soldiers' bodies had gradually acclimated to the pressure there. Being immediately pushed back to the surface caused them to suffer from severe decompression sickness. 3 people died on the spot. The remaining 4 were disabled for life. The plan completely failed. All information related to the Lake Baikal Frogmen was considered a state secret, strictly forbidden from disclosure under all circumstances. However, after many files were successfully declassified, some people suspected that these creatures were actually some kind of extraterrestrial species that had taken up residence beneath Lake Baikal. This theory was further strengthened after NASA published this strange image of Lake Baikal in April 2009. In the image, observers noticed a very large circle with a diameter of about 4 kilometers. It appeared to be formed by thin ice. According to information released by NASA, this was not the first time this phenomenon had occurred on Lake Baikal. Similar presences were previously recorded in 1994 and 1985. But why did that strange circle appear? How was it formed? Take a closer look. The center part of the circle is still frozen, similar to the surrounding environment. However, the rim surrounding it is not. This suggests that something beneath the ice is radiating heat, preventing the water in that area from freezing. And what do you think could radiate heat in this place, apart from artificial activities? This is the basis for many people to believe that a secret base exists beneath Lake Baikal, or, at the very least, a large alien spacecraft. Its activity has caused the water temperature in certain areas to be higher than the surroundings, leading to the strange ice circle phenomenon. But could this be true? Is there any other evidence to support this seemingly crazy hypothesis? Unfortunately, to date, the presence or absence of a USO in Lake Baikal has not been further investigated through field trips. Therefore, its persuasiveness is not high, and it is often criticized as being wild and unrealistic. However, that does not mean that all cases related to USOs are not noteworthy. Lake Baikal may not contain an alien base or a crashed, unidentified object as speculated, but the Baltic Sea is a different story. Look at this. This object in the sea was accidentally discovered in 2001 by a professional salvage team from the company Ocean X. Since its discovery, researchers have faced countless difficulties trying to uncover its true identity. So, what exactly is it? Is it a relic of an ancient civilization? Or a spacecraft abandoned by some extraterrestrial visitor? In June 2014, the professional Swedish salvage team Ocean X discovered the wreck of a wine ship at a depth of about 90 meters beneath the Baltic Sea. They planned to dive down to salvage what remained of this valuable ship. While using sonar equipment to search, Ocean X accidentally saw a large circular object appear on the device's screen. The object looked like a gigantic disk with a diameter of about 60 meters and a height of about 4 meters. Its edges were very smooth and perfectly raised. This definitely cannot be a product of nature. This scale is very similar to the spacecraft in the Star Wars movies that you are currently seeing. As soon as the news was announced, it immediately attracted widespread attention from the media and the public. Many people suggested that this was an alien spacecraft that was abandoned after a malfunction. If so, it would be one of the greatest discoveries in human history. The Ocean X salvage team did not rush into the water to examine the disk immediately after it was discovered, because it was already dark and the fuel on the ship was nearly depleted. They decided to return to port first to rest and prepare all the necessary equipment for approaching the strange object. The next day, the Ocean X team returned with a specific plan for this dangerous exploration trip. Due to the complex environment in the area, the diving team members would face many risks if they attempted to approach the target without protective measures. Therefore, using a small submarine would be the most reasonable option. And strange things began to happen from this point. As the submarine approached the object, it suddenly malfunctioned for no apparent reason. The team members had to immediately activate the emergency procedure and leave the area as quickly as possible. But after only moving a short distance, all the equipment returned to normal operation. They tried this repeatedly, and the result was the same. This suggests that within a radius of about 200 meters around the object, there seems to be a strange energy field that affects the electronic equipment in the submarine. Clearly, the mysterious object could not have formed naturally, and it is highly likely that it is an artificial product. But the question is, who or what created it? To find the truth, the Ocean X team changed their approach. This time, they selected an experienced diver and had him descend alone. The submarine would provide support for him at a distance of over 200 meters, outside the range of influence. At the bottom of the sea, the visibility was so low that one could not see one's own fingers. The diver could only rely on the light on his head to slowly approach the giant object. When he reached the target, he quickly took out his tools to collect a small sample to bring back for research. However, after a few impacts, the flashlight suddenly went out. At the same time, the oxygen tank stopped supplying air, Immediately, the diver felt extremely frightened. He simultaneously swam towards the submarine and tried to contact his colleagues. The communication equipment was also partially disabled. The people on the ship could not hear what he was saying, but guessed that something was wrong. Therefore, they quickly pulled the safety rope attached to the diver's body and rescued him. Everyone was relatively disappointed by the outcome of this trip. After a moment of silence, they began to discuss whether they should go home. Some wanted to continue. Others wanted to give up for safety reasons. While things were still tense, another diver decided to risk it again. Fortunately, this time, he succeeded in obtaining a sample. The sample was carefully sent to the laboratory for analysis, and the results astonished everyone. The scientists in the laboratory discovered that the sample contained a large amount of metallic elements such as titanium, iron, and manganese. Furthermore, the combination of the elements was unusually complex and not naturally occurring. Through dating methods, the sample also revealed that it had been lying at the bottom of the sea for as long as 140,000 years. So, what is it? And where did it come from? The hypothesis most supported by modern scientists was put forward by Volker Bruchert from Stockholm University. According to him, it is a rock that the Baltic Sea was subjected to the influence of melting glaciers. This type of rock could have formed during that time. However, this theory cannot explain why cell phones, satellite phones, and machinery stopped working when approaching these rocks. Therefore, it cannot convince the majority of people. It seemed that this would forever be a great mystery. But right afterward, they had another discovery that once again made everyone stunned. While studying the sonar images taken at the time of the strange object's discovery, they found a long streak behind the sea disk, as if it had slid along the seabed before stopping. You can easily see the skid mark through this reconstructed image. The members of the Ocean X salvage team speculated that this was a UFO that had crashed into the sea. In order to create such a long skid mark and to exist for hundreds of thousands of years, this object must have had an extremely high speed, like a meteorite crashing into Earth. But as stated, it cannot be created by nature. Due to insufficient personnel and funding, the Ocean X salvage team asked the Swedish military for assistance in recovering the strange object to continue research. But regrettably, they did not receive support. Even so, it seems they are still not giving up and continue to conduct many subsequent dives to the seabed. However, because the Baltic Sea has a special geographical location, its terrain is extremely rugged. Currently, the strange object is still in the original location where it was discovered. People are still unable to determine what it is. It could be a relic or evidence of an ancient or extraterrestrial civilization. Regardless of the truth, this discovery is extremely valuable and significant. It not only allows us to think deeply about the history and future of humanity, but also guides us to a deeper understanding of the mysteries of the universe and science. Although the mystery of the object in the Baltic Sea was not fully clarified, it led people to continue to relate it to other similar cases. Indeed, the ocean is an excellent place for extraterrestrial beings to hide. The close connection between USOs and UFOs is made clearer when many past incidents are recalled. In the opening segment, we mentioned that the United States Department of Defense officially began studying UFOs and USOs together. Hundreds of new reports on UFOs were quickly collected, creating conditions for researchers to analyze the information more deeply. And among those reports, Mr. Bob McGuire, Director of Research at the Hume National Security and Technology Center at the University of Virginia, personally recounted his own extremely strange experience during his time in the military. McGuire's first encounter with a USO was in the 1990s, while he was on a secret mission aboard the submarine USS Hampton. While diving deep, he and his colleagues suddenly heard a strange sound. The sound came from a strange underwater object that was moving at an incredible speed. It flashed past the Hampton in an instant, and the speed reading gave a horrifying result, even faster than the speed of sound in the air. Did the United States military later discover what this USO was? McGuire simply replied that it was a secret, and he could not disclose any more information. McGuire's second encounter with a USO was in 2008. At that time, he was aboard the United States Navy warship USS Blue Ridge while they were on a mission off the coast of East Asia. One day, they encountered a large storm. McGuire was inside the cockpit. Although the warship was in the storm, it seemed not to be raining. He wanted to see the actual situation outside, so he looked out the window. At that very moment, McGuire was startled by a light. The light was faint and slightly yellow, dazzling over the water surface. The object emitting the light was large enough to cover the entire warship and seemed to be moving very slowly. A moment later, it suddenly accelerated, flashing out of sight in a few seconds. In fact, there are many reports of eyewitness sightings of USOs like this. It is no wonder that many people, including some experts, suspect that strange creatures may frequently visit Earth. The USO issue also makes many people question the possibility of underwater alien bases. There was once a man who claimed to have been invited by aliens to visit an underwater base. That person was named Orlando Jose Ferradini. The story that Ferradini told was even investigated for 8 years by a group of reputable alien investigators, and they concluded that Ferradini's experience was rare and authentic. So, could it be that this lucky man truly had the opportunity to visit an alien base at the bottom of the sea? One evening in August 1956, Ferradini was sitting on a beach in Argentina, quietly waiting for fish to bite. He heard footsteps behind him. He thought they were a couple of homeless people, so he prepared some cigarettes and water for them. Ferradini often helped them out like this. He turned around to the source of the sound and was immediately startled to realize that there were no homeless people there. Instead, there was a tall, humanoid creature intently observing Ferradini. Ferradini and the alien stared at each other for a moment, and then the other party approached, using a special language to make Ferradini go with them. Honestly, most people, if faced with this situation, would be extremely frightened. But perhaps the alien had used some kind of mind-altering trick. So Ferradini did not panic and agreed to go with them. After a while, Ferradini saw a flying saucer standing upright in front of them. At this point, the alien walked towards the flying saucer and gestured for Ferradini to follow. After boarding the flying saucer, he was very surprised to discover that there was also a 12-year-old girl on board. The girl introduced herself as Elena, and she had also just boarded the flying saucer. At this moment, the alien, through telepathic induction, told them to change into a set of clothes. In just a few seconds, Ferradini's entire body was wrapped in a special material that he had never seen before. After they changed clothes, the flying saucer suddenly dove into the sea and then resurfaced, traveling to the area around San Blas Bay in Argentina. After continuing to travel over the sea for a while, the spacecraft finally reached the waters near Africa, where it suddenly shot up into space. Ferradini said that during his time in space, he saw the complete image of the Earth and the Moon. What is noteworthy here is that Ferradini's description of the Earth and the Moon is exactly the same as what we observe today. The first time humans determined the shape of the Earth was in 1961. That year, the Soviet cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin made humanity's first space journey. But Ferradini had accurately described the Earth and the Moon all the way back in 1956. This has become one of the most important reasons explaining why many people believe his experience is authentic. When Ferradini and Elena stepped out of the flying saucer, they saw themselves in a large architectural structure. Through the window, they saw that it was covered by a giant crystal dome. Under the dome, there were many other buildings and several spacecraft of the same shape. You can temporarily imagine it as an underwater city. While the two small humans were still bewildered, the alien told Ferradini and Elena that this was a spacecraft maintenance base. At the base, another alien brought a plate containing 10 egg-shaped objects of red, yellow, brown, and green, along with a container of clear, viscous liquid. Ferradini and Elena ate one of the egg-shaped objects and drank the liquid as requested. It had no taste or unpleasant sensation. Afterward, they were carried separately on stretchers into a room filled with a pale yellow light and then fell asleep. When they woke up, they suddenly discovered that they could read each other's thoughts as a way of communicating without using language. At this point, an alien approached and told the two people that they had just conducted a special, important examination. The results of the survey would be used to research and better understand the physical and mental condition of humans. The aliens said that Ferradini and Elena were very healthy, and they had calculated the time since their civilization's primitive era through this examination. What the aliens said next astonished Ferradini. They said that humans have a very special organ, the pineal gland. This is the greatest characteristic of the primitive races on Earth. But the pineal gland of the vast majority of people is in a non-activated state. If this part could be activated, humans could completely reach a level equivalent to, or even surpass, other races. You probably remember that we previously mentioned the pineal gland in the most recent video about the third eye. If you want to know more about it, you can find and re-watch that video here. The aliens also explained the disease cancer to Ferradini, saying that it is due to the decline in the functions of the endocrine glands. It then seeks out the weakest organ and attacks, modifying the formation of cells. This completely aligns with the conclusions of current research. However, for Ferradini, these details were not only ahead of their time, but also beyond the imagination of his brain. This means that even if he were to make up the story, an ordinary person like Ferradini could not achieve such scientific accuracy. When the entire journey with the aliens ended, Ferradini woke up exactly where he was fishing and realized that 6 hours had passed. It is unknown whether it was due to the influence of Ferradini's story, but the famous Canadian director James Cameron made the movie The Abyss in 1989. Its main content tells the story of underwater aliens who originally intended to destroy humanity, but were ultimately moved by the kindness of humanity and switched to helping them. This movie is still very well loved even today. Unlike UFOs, which are mostly only noted by old documents, USOs are much more frequently reported in modern times. Most importantly, we are researching them very seriously. A typical recent event that can be mentioned is the Papua New Guinea fireball event in 2014. Specifically, on January 9, 2014, a fireball streaked across the night sky, exploded over the Pacific Ocean, and crashed near the coast of Papua New Guinea. This fireball was named IM-1. After many efforts, on June 14, 2023, Professor A.V. Loeb at Harvard University led his team to the coast of Papua New Guinea to conduct research on the mysterious object lying there. After 2 weeks of intensive searching, they found metallic remnants that were left after IM-1 was burned. How did they find it? And what did they find? Loeb's team worked with local authorities to establish a 10-kilometer radius where the meteoroid might have landed. Then, they went to the area to search by using magnets to sweep the seabed, along with the help of modern equipment. The team quickly discovered 10 strange spheres that Loeb believes could have been produced by extraterrestrial technology. The field of space science research itself also agrees that these fragments almost certainly originated from a different star system. Analysis of the composition showed that the spheres contained 84% iron, 8% silicon, 4% aluminum, 2% titanium, along with a small amount of other elements. They are smaller than 1 millimeter in size. When observed under a microscope, they look very different from the surrounding sediment. They are yellow, blue, or brown. Some even look like miniature models of the Earth. Professor Loeb further shared that we calculated their speed outside the solar system to be up to 60 kilometers per second. They are composed of materials that are tougher than iron meteorites and travel faster than 95% of all stars in the space surrounding the Sun. This suggests that there is a possibility that this is a spacecraft from another civilization or some kind of technological device. He compared this situation to Voyager, the pair of NASA spacecraft launched in 1977 that are still wandering in outer space today. He imagines that when Voyager crashes into another distant planet in 1 billion years, they will also plunge like meteorites, similar to the case that IM-1 encountered. However, if that is true, then the 10 strange metallic spheres must contain some kind of message. And to this day, we still cannot decipher it. You may not know this, but Avi Loeb is dubbed the Harvard Alien Hunter. According to The Independent, he is a member of the President's Council of Advisors on Science and Technology, and also the head of the Galileo Project, which aims to search for concrete evidence of aliens and their technology. That is why I believe that the research activities that Professor Loeb presented regarding the metallic spheres are completely well-founded. Parallel to the exploration of space, the ocean perhaps should also be given more attention by humans. Sometimes the things we tirelessly search for are right in front of us.